I am feeling great. How about yourself?
You know, it's a nice, beautiful Tuesday, and I actually am thinking about putting on my AC today. How hot is it up in Minnesota?
Yeah. It's probably going to touch 80. It's definitely been very humid. It's been stormy. So yeah, for the first time, it's that time of year where I kick on the AC one day and then the next day it drops down and I've got to yeah. But
85 degrees in Madison today. Wow.
this begins the 3 month stretch in Minnesota that's livable. It's great.
Yeah, it's great. Mike is like, what the hell are you guys whining about 85? It's
Look,
103 out
man.
today.
Yeah. I'm in South Texas, homie. So it's a little we take heat a little differently, but at the same time, we take cold a little differently. So when it gets below 70, it's cold in South Texas. I'm just gonna leave it at that. So
Yeah. Well, I'll just tell you,
It's the
I'm
30s.
playing
It's
the long
t-shirt
game.
weather.
The way I look at it is that with the gradual climate change, I figure in like 800 years, my house value is going to be way up. So I'm just sitting back. So you guys might want to make friends with me now because down the road,
you'll be
everybody's
collecting,
going
huh?
to want
You'll
to
be
live in
swimming in it.
Robbinsdale. What's that?
Yeah.
All right.
I said you'll be swimming in it, my man.
That's right. I'm
Yeah.
banking on AI extending my conscious life quite a ways. So anyway, okay.
Demetrius,
What are we talking
um,
about? Why are we? Yeah.
well, I kind of want to parse what you just said. You guys should become friends with me. Are you saying we're not friends?
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm just saying, you might want to think about that when you're passing out
Hey,
those onboard sportswear. What do we got? What do you got new on the jersey side?
These are the queued up ones.
Yeah, looks good as
Yeah,
always.
these are nice. Yeah, these are the nice ones. I think you know what, Demetrius. I think you should reach out to your students and see which ones are going to be interested in Minnesota pool boot camp jersey.
Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you, it's actually kind of cool. So I'll plug the boot camp real quick. 3 day training. So at mnpoolbootcamp.com, minnesotapoolbootcamp.com, I've had a lot of students come and train with me, and actually six of them that have already trained with me are coming back to Minnesota this August. We're going to do a refresher where I'm not going to be teaching them as much new stuff. We're just going to be drilling and training and actually like practicing and just drilling and it's going to be fun, man. Just kind of a refresher. I mean, of course, we'll revisit stuff, make sure that if I see any areas that they haven't developed that we were talking about developing, I'll bring that back up and we'll work that into our training. But it'll be fun, man. I'm looking, so it's kind of cool. Once people have trained with me, a lot of these guys, we have this private Facebook training group where we get to do ongoing discussions and pattern reviews and video reviews, and we get a little good community here going. So it's going to be good to see some of those guys again. So for those who have trained with me, thank you for coming out. It's been a total blast. And for those that are interested, check it out at mnpoolbootcamp.com. How you
What
doing,
I want
Patrick?
to know
Yeah,
is where's my invite? I was one of your previous students. I never got an invite to it. That's cool
yeah,
though.
yeah.
Whatever. Don't worry
I'll
about
keep.
that. No, that's cool.
Yeah, no, it's good.
we see where you are in the totem pole, Nate.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm down in Peasantville. You know what can you do? All right, well, let's talk some pool. Let's talk some pool. Who's excited for
Let's
this?
do it.
I'm excited to talk some pool. All right, let's talk about. We have a WPA sighting. How fun is that, guys? The WPA decided that they were going to come down from their ivory tower and bless all of us lovely peasants with their presence, and it was great. So, in case you haven't been around Facebook, Darren Appleton was suspended for an event. Um, it's possible he would have made the Moscow or not the World Pool Masters, which we'll talk about later on, but he didn't. And part of the reason why he didn't was because he was on a temporary ban. So going into the backstory, and you guys actually don't know all of this stuff, or maybe you don't know all the details. Who knows? So you guys are learning this in live time. So we're going to get your, I guess, reactions in live time. Darren Appleton was up 7-2, maybe like 2 or something like that against Josh Filler, and then 10-7. He was up big twice, and he ended up losing the match 11-10. And he did not appreciate some of the things that Joshua did, especially on the game-winning 9-ball. Put him on a little bit of tilt. And after the match, he went off, and while he was kind of stewing, and to be honest, I mean, love you, Darren, probably pouting and just kind of being angry that he lost the match. He was randomly selected to take a drug test. Now, normally this is not the biggest of deals, but he was randomly selected to take a drug test in Vegas that he just left 7 days prior. So you're telling me that Darren Appleton needs to be tested twice in a week? Sure, whatever. It's random, right? Theoretically, this could happen. Whatever. Not a big deal. Random. Some people have never been selected if they've been playing the game for 20 years. Again, random. Whatever. From there, Darren gets very, very angry at the person who is randomly drug testing him. He's on tilt. He's kind of sulking. And he is, I guess, essentially, he's blowing up. He tells basically the guy who is there to enforce his random drug test, basically to F off, don't talk to me. Now, he's not saying don't talk to me in a sense of like, I'm not taking your stupid drug test, because he's taking it. He just doesn't want to make small chat with the dude while he's waiting to take his test. Because if you go back and look at that match, I believe at 10-9, Josh actually took a timeout. So during that timeout, Darren said he went to the bathroom. So you have to kind of pee in a cup to take a drug test. He just peed 20 minutes prior. So he doesn't have to go. He doesn't have to use the restroom. And basically he's sitting around drinking water until he has to use the restroom, during which the guy wants to talk to him. Darren's basically telling him to F off. On top of that, he made a comment towards one of the Matchroom people who was kind of laughing at the situation, or Darren believes that he is laughing at the situation. Since then, it has come out to whether or not he actually was laughing at Darren or whether he was laughing at something else. He doesn't really know. The fact that Darren is just pissed off and doesn't like the idea that this Matchroom employee is laughing potentially at his situation, and basically tells the Matchroom person to wipe the smirk off of his face. Definitely should not be saying stuff like that. So
I love Darren.
Yeah, funny, right, isn't it? So basically what he does is he tells the guy who has to enforce the drug test, basically, don't effing talk to me. I'm not trying to talk to you right now. And then he tells a Matchroom employee to wipe the smirk off of your face. So that is essentially on top of, just kind of being a pissant in the moment. All right, he's not happy and he's letting it be known to just leave him alone. All right, so that is essentially what Darren does wrong. Demetrius, well, let me go through the story a little bit more and exactly what happens. So essentially what happens is he is reported to the WPA. And the WPA basically tells Darren that we are going to look into the situation, and until we make a decision on this, you will no longer be allowed to play in any WPA sanctioned events. The only one that happened is a invite-only tournament, the Whirlpool Masters, and he cannot play in it. So he'd never got an invite. Maybe he would have gotten an invite. Maybe he wouldn't have gotten an invite. It's kind of hard to say. They did have 2 last-second fill-ins that were needed with Mika and Mario he got, plus they had a couple wild cards that they had not announced. Who knows whether he would have gotten one or not. I have no idea. So he cannot play in that. Now he's trying to find out if he can play in the UK Open. He still does not totally know if he can. He's pretty sure he can. But the idea is the WPA goes off, and 4, 5, 6 days later, he already has confirmation that he has won. He loses 25% of his winnings. Now, this is important. This is very important. This is not a detail I want to just lightly brush over. The email states that he loses 25% of his winnings. Now, he won $6,000. So that's $1,500. He had a fine of $1,500. Are you telling me that if he'd have snapped the tournament off and it had been $16,000, that he would have been fined $15,000? Because that's what 25% means. If he'd have made,
I thought it was capped. I could have sworn
the email does not say capped. From what I was told, the email does not say capped. Now, if there's something in the bylaws that says it's capped, I don't know. But where's it capped? And if it's not, if $1,500, well, let me ask you this: what is the cap then?
I want to say it was in the 2 range. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I've heard that number before.
Okay. So that's possible. This is the first time I've ever heard that. I know that $1,500 to somebody who is grinding out a living and just made $6,000 is a crazy amount to find somebody. We'll get into that. That's the analysis part of it. I just want to go through the rest of the story. From what I was told, the email states that he is fined 25% of his prize funds. Great. 25% out the door. On top of that, he is going to be, he had to write a letter of apology to Matchroom and to the person that
Oh my God.
and to the person that he had to, or had to scuffle with, and whatever. We'll talk about that later on. We'll talk about that in a second. And then the third part of this is if he has another outburst or has any other WPA violation, he will be banned for a full calendar year from all WPA sanctioned events. The guy is 43 years old. All right. Okay. So, all right, I'm going to leave that to the analysis part of this. So that is what happened from his outburst, and that is the situation that we are underway. I guess, does anybody want to jump into the analysis of what you just heard before I do?
Yeah, my initial thoughts, and I'll pace myself, but I've always said there's what's right and wrong, and then there's a right way and a wrong way to react to it. So as far as I'm concerned, there's a number of, there's like the situation and the response, situation and response. So the first situation was Filler's behavior, and then how Darren responded to that. The next situation was how the Matchroom employees were handling Darren as far as the second random drug test, the way that they were, handling him, the way that they were reading or not reading his body language or physical, verbal language, asking for a little space, how they were handling him, if they were needling him or if they were very professional. I don't know what they did exactly. And then there's Darren's response to all of it. And then there's WPA's response to Darren's response. And so I think that everybody has had, parts of this, to get to where it got. There's been suboptimal play from every individual here. But I just think it's interesting to think about like which piece is in it. So yeah, I think I have more thoughts, but I just wanted to kind of frame it that way in my mind. It's like, where, what were the things that were done? How did Darren respond? And how did WPA respond? What do you think, Mike?
I think that's a great way of looking at it. So let's talk first about what Darren did. Does anybody have any thoughts on it?
Listen, Darren's one of those guys where he don't play that game, and I like him, and I like that personality of him. I was there in Vegas when the guy walked up to him. I think it was after I forgot who was playing, maybe like Capito or something, and it was a pretty intense match when he got drug tested there. Yeah, I don't mind the reaction because we're allowed to get annoyed. Right now, going and telling someone to wipe that look off their face, maybe that wasn't the best thing to go and do, right? But just you being annoyed, okay, fair enough, right? You getting random, twice in a 2-week span or whatever it was. I mean,
I've heard on good authority that Jason Shaw, Albin Ocean, and Shane Van Boning have never been random drug tested. I have that on good authority. Now, if I'm wrong, if I'm wrong, I'll be the first to admit it. If anybody knows otherwise, what I was told was those three have never in their career been random drug tested.
Yeah, but I mean, that's like saying that guy was speeding, so why am I getting the ticket? That'll make a difference to me. So I mean, it is what it is. If you're part of the WPA, then that's just par for the course. There's always going to be that opportunity. Now, could they have picked a better time? Probably, especially given that he had just lost Hill in a match that he probably should have won, a match that I thought he was going to win going into it. And I didn't get to watch the match, so I don't know what happened. I don't know that mess about Josh. I don't know if Darren dogged it.
Well,
I don't know
I don't think I actually said this in the beginning. So let me actually the part that really set Darren off about Josh. So just the Josh part of this was he basically, so when they were at 10-10 and they're playing the final rack, Josh plays a shot and gets onto the 9-ball. The 9-ball is maybe 6 or 7 inches away from the pocket, and the cue ball is like, you can't miss it if you try.
Perfect.
Like the ball is dead perfect.
Does he go get a drink of water and clean his hands?
He does. He goes back to his seat.
Just a guess.
Yeah, he goes back.
We know that about Josh. I'm like, if you're on the receiving end of it that time, okay, but we know that about Josh. I don't take that as disrespectful. You just on tilt because you should have gone and put him away. But
Yeah.
Josh has always done that. I mean, like you never told me this. I haven't spoken to Darren. I guess that just because of how many times I've seen Josh Filler go and play, and that's what he does. Some people may take it as disrespect. They may take it as them needling, whatever the case may be. But that's who the guy is, for better or worse. That don't got nothing to do. I mean, I get it. You're fuming, and then you got someone coming in wanting to go in random. You know, right after that, it's probably a bad combination.
And then the same guy who calls extension on the 9 ball when it's, Josh is known for also.
There a lot of pro players go and do that now. Jason does that now. There's a lot of top guys that they're on the 9 ball. They'll automatically go and call it, so that way they don't got to go and deal with it at the end. I don't mind it. Makes sense. It's just you can't go and threaten somebody though, whether it was intentionally or unintentionally. I love the passion by Darren. I think he's a great ambassador for the sport. I think that his resurgence of his career is fantastic. But it's like I tell my girls, man, like, I don't care what that person did to you. Don't let them get the better of you to go and get that reaction out of you. Do not give them the satisfaction of letting them see you get riled up, But it was really, listen, the guy just had a bad day. That's all I chalk it up to. But the finding part's horrible though.
Well, we'll get to
the WPA's reaction in a second. And by the way, I want to say that is that before you guys think what I'm about to say about Darren, that doesn't necessarily mean I think that the response from the WPA was right. But as far as Darren goes, I see a lot of things like, hey, we've all been emotional. It's always tough. We all get frustrated after a match. It's a tough loss. Now, for sure, there's bad timing. For sure, it would have, I can totally understand that the timing was bad for a random drug test. And I can totally imagine an employee, trying to like either make small talk or trying to be conversational, Darren being a little prickly and then them getting kind of offended and kind of like escalatory or like, well, what's your problem kind of a thing. So I can understand how the people involved might have played a role in provoking Darren. But in the end, I don't like Mike just said, I don't care what the other person did. I care what Darren did. And there's a limit, right? So now we obviously, for people that are like, oh, everybody's had a bad day, we've all said things we regret. Well, there's limits, and some of them are legal limits. Like you can't hit somebody, you can't shoot somebody because you're angry. You don't write that up as a bad day. Well, when it comes to conduct and professional conduct, there's another limit, which is for me, I don't think there's any tolerance for treating people in a way that makes them feel threatened or intimidated or whatever. So like, I used to manage at a call center. I had a team of guys. And it's like when a customer started getting escalated, if they were passionate, if they were angry, that's one thing. But if they started swearing, if they started like, insulting, my team had permission to disconnect the call. And if I got involved and somebody was going to do it, it's like there's personal boundaries where that's not acceptable. You don't get to do that. And so when he starts telling people to F off and when he starts getting escalatory to where other people might be feeling
allegedly.
Okay. Well, I'm saying
it's not allegedly.
This sounds like this has been it sounds like the quote. Yeah, the quote. There's some things that are subjective, right? But some things are not subjective. Some things are like whether or not he swore at somebody and whether or not he told them to wipe the smirk off their face. And it's not okay. I can imagine being an employee dealing with a guy that's like pissed off and slamming stuff around and really angry and wide-eyed, and then you start trying to tie it all.
He signed up. Listen, if you're gonna be the ones doing drug tests, you signed up for that.
That's what I'm saying. So if I'm the employee and the guy starts like, I've been in situations where I've dealt with rage monkeys before, and I just don't have a lot of tolerance for it, man. It's like, now I don't know that the response was correct, that for sure, but I don't think that conduct is correct, and so I don't think that should be allowed. And I personally love going to tournaments where I know the tournament director doesn't put up with that. I don't like going to places where I said the same thing when the Billy Thorpe incident happened a year and a half or whatever ago, where I was like, yeah, there should be a standard of conduct, because otherwise you got a few guys that start doing stuff that's you just can't allow that. Once you can't allow that.
Sure. Yeah, but you ain't dealing with you're not dealing with Alex Paguline. You ain't dealing with Roberto Gomez. You ain't dealing with guys that are like just in general jovial and happy. I mean, how Darren is. I mean, leave him alone during that. I mean, like, if you're already gonna have to do it, give him a space.
Yeah. But I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would guess that it wasn't just like a snap and then he goes off. I guess there was like things leading up to it. Now, again, I don't know that, but that would just be my guess.
100%. But listen, this is the kind of comments we're getting. Is if you're not in Darren's shoes, it's hard to understand how he felt. I don't care how he felt. Okay, there's a certain level, like when everybody here has gotten raging angry, and there's a limit at which you stop yourself from going to the next step. Some people don't. Some people get physical and actually hit somebody, and then it's like, well, I was raging angry. It's like, yeah, well, you got to stop yourself before you hit somebody. All I'm suggesting is that when you get raging angry, you have to stop yourself before you start telling people to F off and escalating the situation. You have to. Like if you're going to be in a it's no different if you worked in a corporation. Okay, I worked in a corporation.
Is it the F off, or is it the wipe that look off your face that bothers?
Yeah, and I'm just saying this in that type of stuff. Like I worked at a corporation. For all of you guys that work, in a corporate office, you don't get to go, you don't get to escalate and start telling, people in different departments to F. You don't get, if you acted like that, your manager would have a response. You know what I mean? That's like, it's just not okay. So I don't understand how being angry excuses behavior. It's like, no, I understand he was very angry. He's got a responsibility to he can enforce a boundary. He can say he's an adult. He can say, you know what, I need a minute. I need to take a break. You please. I'm he can disengage.
If you see someone that's noticeably on tilt and you can tell like they're going like this, you're probably going to give them a few and just let them go and cool off. That's
right. And that's why I think that that's why I think the people that were handling this were probably provocative. I mean, it sounds like it's like I said, I'm projecting all this, right? But it seems like somebody was like, hey, Darren, you need you to go to the bathroom and take a drug test. What the hell? I just lost a match and I just peed it. And all of a sudden they started getting a little sniffy and like, oh, what's your problem? So obviously, I don't think they handled it well. I don't think they handled that situation well. You're right. He should have been given time. But if he wasn't given time, he's got the responsibility of managing his behavior.
Sure. Well, I agree with Demetrius. But like let me jump in here because I think that Demetrius is basically saying that the fuck off and the
I guess we're allowed to say it now.
Yeah, we can. It doesn't really matter, I guess, does it? So like basically Demetrius is saying that both of those cross a line of tolerable behavior. And the only reason I want to jump in because I don't agree with him. I don't agree that the fuck off actually does. I think that he's actually quite justified in saying that to somebody who refuses to stop talking to him when he's already told the person that he doesn't want to make small talk. He'll take the test. It's going to take a while. But if that person insists on continuing to needle at him and try to make small talk with him when he obviously does not want to, I do not believe that crosses the line. However, I do think that the wipe the smirk off your face is completely out of bounds, completely over the line, and that is really ultimately what he's getting punished for. But the only reason I wanted to jump in there is because like everybody's line is going to be different. Some people's line is going to be, I don't think that you should ever raise your voice to begin with. I don't think that you should ever be mad after a loss. And then there's some people, you probably ask Earl Strickland and he'll say, I can do whatever the hell I want. I know how to spin the cue ball. I can do what I want. So it depends basically on your line and where this is. And all of that is going to be subjective. So Demetrius's line is, I think, significantly further up than mine and yours are, Mike.
I agree. It's a scale thing, and to be totally fair, I don't have a ton of context on this, and so there's a lot I don't know.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that the line is when you start behaving in a way that might make other people feel like threatened or uncomfortable to the point where it's one thing to be like, man, you're working at a coffee shop, but the guy you're serving is kind of a jerk. You're like, man, this guy's a jerk. Compare that to like where the guy starts raging at you to where you feel like where you're like it triggers emotions in you where you're like, kind of almost like a day record. Like, you feel like, man, it's just like I dealt with this guy today to just made me, you know what I mean? It's like there's certain lines that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess for some of the things that are coming in via the comments, if we obviously can't tell the story again, the podcasts are there. You can go back and listen to the beginning of it and you get all this analysis. So I'm sorry I can't tell the story again. But I guess are we good to leave it there? We kind of decided.
Yeah, I want to pipe in on the WPA reaction real quick. I think that I've been fairly hard on Darren because everybody that's talking about Darren, first of all, he was provoked. Second of all, he's human. And third of all, he didn't break any laws. He didn't hit anybody. So like, I think that the way that it should have been handled, I used corporate as an example of what's not tolerated in terms of behavior. Now let me use corporate as an example of how this could have been handled. Why wasn't he given a warning? Why? Like, to me, this is something where he gets a call from somebody in the WPA and they say, hey, Darren, not cool, bro. Listen, love you. You've been a longtime player. You've been a longtime member. You're a big part of the tour. We care about you. We appreciate your participation. We support your effort to organize the players. You have a big role to play both on the table and off the table, and we want you to be part of what we're doing. But you know what? We need you to be a leader, not just in terms of play, not just in terms of organization, but in terms of conduct. I apologize for the things that were done that kind of provoked you. However, going forward, we expect a higher level of conduct on your end. Here's exactly where we think you crossed the line. We're not going to do anything right now, but if this were to happen again, we'd have an issue. We might have to, things like bans or fines were considered. They're not being on the table because this is the first time we've had this conversation, but please don't make us repeat it. Like, to me, that seems like an easy conversation to have, and to skip the warning step and go right to fines and penalties. I think that's totally disproportionate. So as hard as I was on Darren, I think that it was unacceptable what Darren did, but it was like a finger wag unacceptable, not a punish the guy.
Sure.
What do you think of that?
Let's talk about the broader context of the actual punishment now, because I'm going to refresh everybody in the chat. The punishment was he lost 25% of his funding, 25% of his prize funds for winning, which was $6,000 that he won. So he lost $1,500. The second was that he had to write a letter of apology to Matchroom. And the third was that if he does anything like this again, any outburst again that warrants any sort of looking into, we'll say, he is banned from any WPA sanctioned events for a full calendar year. So let's talk about the first one first, because that's kind of what let's talk about the first one first. In a context of, is 25% fair of his prize fund, so $1,500 fine, or should he have gotten a fine at all? Now, Demetrius, I 110% agree with you that this does not warrant a fine at all. I mean, it's just completely anything. The dude has been playing on the tour. He said he's been playing professionally since 1996. And I think he switched over to 9-ball professionally in 1998, if I'm not mistaken. Let's just say 2000, somewhere around 2000. The dude's been in the game for 22 years, over 22 years. And he's had exactly 2 outbursts. And that's if we're going to consider this an outburst. Now, I don't know if everybody does, but he had an incident with Mike DeShane in 2016, I believe. I believe that was 2016, 2017. He had an outburst, or he had an altercation with Mike DeShane, where he was fined as well from the WPA and warned. Does having an incident in 2016 justify not getting a warning this time, Demetrius?
No, so I have, without repeating myself, and I hope that the people that were, that felt that I was being a little hard on Darren hear this part of it too, where I'm really defending. I think that the whole idea is everybody should feel safe. And that means that the Matchroom employees should feel safe, and that when you're competing in a tournament, you should feel safe from the other players. But on the other hand, as far as like the players should feel safe from the WPA. And if the players are walking around and they feel like, at any time they could do one thing that was like, and I'll give you a personal example. I love the Turning Stone. I go every year. I went in January. I'm going in August or September. It's September this year. But like, Mike Zuglin is like a really heavy-handed. He's the most heavy-handed tournament director I've ever met, to where even if you're the way I look at tournament directors is, if you show up on time for your matches, follow the rules of conduct, go to the players meeting, if you sincerely try to do everything you can do to follow the rules, you shouldn't really be in danger of being disqualified or forfeiting games and all these types of things. The only penalty I've ever had given to me was by Mike Zuglin, and it was in a situation that nobody else would ever have. I mean, it was totally disproportionate. So like, it was when I go to play at Zuglin's events, I don't feel protected as a player, where if I play by the rules, I'm going to necessarily be safe. I feel like you can play by all the rules, and sometimes he's so punitive. He's like trigger happy to inflict, consequences on people for stuff that's really weird. Anyway, I feel the same way. Like, I don't want the players to go to tournaments and feel like somebody could hear them say something out of context, or that they miss a 9-ball, and whatever they put their chalk down hard or throw a chalk off the table and they get disqualified from an event. Like, I don't want.
If we're gonna go there, let's go there.
I just don't want players to be walking on eggshells. I want the players who have been part of the pool community for years, who have been leaders in the industry. I want them to feel like they have some protection. Yeah.
Well, it's actually perfect because Ed Ladawi's here, so we got the biggest Earl Strickland apologist in the entire world. Tell me what Darren did that's worse than anything Earl has done in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But we find Earl charming. Are you telling me that are you telling me that breaking your cue on national television, or screaming "You're so lucky, Efren" in the middle of a match, or doing a post-match interview where you basically tell the person who just beat you 7-2 that he's not a good player, and he's never going to be anybody that's any good? Like you're talking about some dude that shows zero respect to the game or to his opponents ever, and we find it charming. Darren did something behind the scenes nobody even knew about if you wouldn't have made it public, and he gets a $1,500 fine and removed from a potential event. I mean, like, it's just crazy to me. I mean, if we're going to go there, let's go there.
1,500 could have a lot more.
At all.
That 1,500 could turn into a lot more, because had he gotten a spot on the World Pool Masters, I think he probably would have been guaranteed
minimum $1,750.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you got to like his chances in the UK Open, just given how he's played, to probably make it. If I was a betting man, I would say easily in the final 32, if not the final 16, and with a really good shot at snapping it off, because he obviously shows he can beat the best players in the world, i.e. Filler, who we had pretty much beat that match. So, I mean, he's got a big upside. So that 1,500 and that possible whatever it is, suspension or hanging over his head, who knows?
I just see. Well, there's been a comment that why do we never talk about the good things that WPA does? And somebody kind of backed it up. I'll wait. If you want to create a list of the things that they do that help this industry, and that they actually stick by and are consistent with, like, I'm not saying they don't do anything. I'm just saying that what they're supposed to represent, they're a complete void at best. I mean, that is the nicest thing I could say about them. Like, anyways. So are we all agreement? Well, Mike, you never really gave your opinion on this. What do you think? Do you think that the punishment was fair? Do you think that, tell us what you think about the actual punishment, the monetary part of it?
Well, like Demetrius makes a good point, when he brings that corporate example into the mix. But I agree with you. Like, there's steps. Something that happened in 16, I'm not giving that any weight right now. I mean, it's 6 years later. So yeah, I mean, I think a slap on the wrist, write an apology. That's the most ridiculous thing on earth. I would never play the game again if you asked me to go write an apology. Now, on the same hand, if I mess up, and if I know I mess up, I'm gonna go and own it, and I'm gonna take responsibility for it, and I'm gonna go talk to you man to man. And I'll give you a good example. My buddy Franco, real good friend of mine. We do a lot of business together. I was a jerk to him the other day. We hadn't really talked the last few days. You know what I said? Hey man, I'm sorry for being a you know what to you, because you didn't deserve that. It wasn't because nobody goes and told me I needed to do that. That's just the right thing to go and do. Now, I'm not saying it to get praise. My point is that when you blow it, take responsibility for you blowing it. I'm not going to go and write somebody a letter just because somebody tells me to. I'm going to go speak to whoever I went off on and say, yo, I didn't mean to come at you like that. It was a bad day for me. I'm sorry. Point blank, no excuses. I messed up, and then move on. But to go and in an industry where financial freedom is already nearly impossible, to go and hit him in the wallet on top of no warning or anything like that, when it was just a perfect storm. The guy had a bad damn day. He just lost to a player, the best player in the world, that he should have beat, and he should have moved on. And you probably would have liked Darren's chance to go and at least get to the semis from there, if not more. So
he still would have had to play Albin next,
but if you beat Josh, you tell me he don't have that confidence? Come on now.
No, I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I think that I think that good question, by the way. June brought up is if he's had a warning in the past, and that would change things, right? So I'm operating with the information I was given. Now, if he's had issues where they've warned him more recently than 2016, if he's had issues in the last year or two, and it's been a repeated thing, then that's a different conversation. But we don't know that. As far as the part where I lost my train of thought, do we know if he has any warnings, Nate? I was wondering about that.
I'm under the assumption that he hasn't. I know, like I said, he had that altercation with Mike DeShane at the Mosconi Cup in 2016 or 2017.
So then
we don't even know if he would have been invited to the Masters, though. Like, that's still, it's kind of up in the air whether or not he would have been invited on there. I mean, with this play, he probably should have over Loho Sum, just in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that the
Still don't
letter
know.
thing, there's a lot of comments about the letter, and you had some comments. Like, to me, I feel that it's like a power play by WPA where it's like,
For sure.
we run this
Yeah.
thing. If you want to be in our events, if you want to participate, we can make you dance like a
I say
puppet.
jump and you
Here's
say
what's
how
gonna
high.
happen.
Yeah.
It's like like this. It's partly it's shaming, like we're gonna shame you, but more than that, I think
Treating
that
him like a child.
the way that Darren would feel, or the way I would feel, I think the way most humans would feel is that they feel it's like it's a power play in the sense of like, we're in charge. Now I need you to say, Darren, I need to repeat. Who's in charge? I need you to say WPA is in charge. Say it, or you don't get to play. It's like this really heavy-handed like reminder of who's calling the shots. And we're important and we're big and we control you and you're just a player and you participate at our mercy. There's ways of doing that. You don't have to like. I just feel like that's kind of a heavy-handed like power play that makes people feel kind of like violated. Like where Mike said, like literally that apology letter might be enough to say, you know what? Screw you. I'll just play, play events that are not WPA and whatever. And it's like, and that's enough to make people retire, just because they don't like being bullied and threatened. So I don't really, I feel like at some point it would have been cool. Like somebody made the comment, he
Who
apologized.
loves being drug tested though?
Yeah. It just doesn't seem.
Especially right after a loss.
Right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I mean, understand the circumstances too on the other side of it, man. Like, we're all human.
Yeah.
All right. So we're all in agreement that he should have never been given a fine. It should have been a warning. And now we're all in agreement that WPA basically is like doing some sort of weird power trip / treating him like a child with the letter. I mean, how much else is there to say about that? You're making the dude write a letter. Now, I don't know. The thing we haven't talked about is what's Matchroom's role in all of this, because maybe Matchroom requested a letter be written. I don't know. Like I don't know about that, but to make somebody write a letter, like I'm just imagining like,
you know what I would have done? I would have wrote like a 30-page letter. It would have been like the most over the top, flowery. Like I would have had like a ghostwriter help me with the thing. I'm serious. I would have just been like over the top, like 30 pages. Bam. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure it was
reminds
never
me of like
when
you're you watch The Simpsons, right? In the intro where Bart's on the board.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about.
Writing lines. Man,
Yeah.
You can go kick rocks with that shit. I ain't doing that, man.
That's. I mean, it's just a little bit.
He's a grown man. Let him go and handle it. The way he wants to go and do it and apologize to him, like he should, because he should.
If you want to, I could see like requiring like a public apology or something like that. But writing a letter.
I mean, even then, but that shit was that was in private though. What happened between them was in private. So go and handle it in private.
I agree. Yep. So, all right, let's move on to the third part about this, which is if he has another outburst or any problem with the WPA in the next or ever. It doesn't even say on there. It just says if you have another one, you have an automatic 12-month ban. What do we think about that? So
I'm okay with a warning. I think where it's weird is committing to a 12-month ban without like, for example, of course, I'd like to think that, we don't have an incident again, but like, that means, so that's almost like the only thing I could compare it to is like a probation or something where somebody's like released from jail or something, or they're on probation to where, hey, automatically you've got like a 3-year jail sentence hanging over your head. So if you're found violating a law, like say you're drunk driving or you're found with minor possession, where like, in other words, it doesn't matter if what law you break. We can catch you jaywalking. If you have any problems with the law during this probational period, you're automatically going to get penalized with this 3-year suspension, with this 3-year jail sentence.
No, it ain't. You know why it's not a good analogy? Because that's a specific offense. You jaywalk, you jaywalk. If you have an outburst, how arbitrary is that, man?
And so
what I may go and interpret as an outburst may not be the same thing that Demetrius goes and determines as an outburst.
Fair enough. So I guess my point is that somebody gets a speeding ticket and then they have a 3-year jail sentence but the difference is with probation, that probation period ends. And I think that if they said something like, if we have a serious issue, we're going to, in the next 12 months, then you'll be banned from one event. Like that might be reasonable, like a 12-month probation with a one ban, with a one tournament penalty. But personally, I would have liked to have said, hey, you've got a warning. And then if this happens again, Then when we we'll evaluate the next situation independently based on what happened. We'll make some opinions, but the fact that you've been warned about this in the past will play a role if we have to reopen this conversation. Like, to me, that's the right way to handle it. Is like, it's a warning. If this happens again, that'll play a factor in how we determine it. But we don't need to like have this penalty of a year hanging over your head with no probationary ending just permanently. I think that's a little bit excessive.
A little is being polite. That's a lot excessive. Yeah, a time frame is completely necessary.
Well, especially when you look at like other players, right? Like, is this worse than what Billy and Rob did? Why did Billy get nothing?
Well,
yeah, if we're talking about this, I mean, let's just talk about consistency for a second, because before basically everything that you just said, there is no consistency. Everything is arbitrary. So Mike said, what is an outburst? An outburst is completely different to everybody. We've already had this discussion. An outburst is different between all three of us. Mike says nothing that he did was that, worth this. I don't necessarily disagree with him as far as like the telling the guy to fuck off. I do think that it's too far when you start talking about take the smirk off your face. And Demetrius, you think that they're both.
See, I'm on the opposite.
Yeah, and Demetrius, you think they're both
context, right? It's all context.
Yes, the point is we have no freaking clue where they're working from, right? We have no idea where the WPA is coming from. We have no idea why it was 25%. If it would have been 25% if he finished 5 spots earlier, if he made $600 in that event, would it still have been $25 or 25%? Would it be $150 then? Would it be 25% if he snapped the tournament off and he just won $60,000? Would he have had to pay $15,000? We have no idea if 25% is consistent across places. We have no idea if you ever have an outburst again. If he has an outburst when he's 75 years old playing in the World Championships, is like hey, we have Darren Appleton here who won it in 1984. Like, do we have if he has an outburst there and he javelins his pool cue through a wall, is he banned for a year at age 76? Like, is he gonna like be down on a shot or is he gonna have like his opponent down on a shot and he's gonna fart from the corner and he's gonna get banned?
Or he argues with the ref. Like maybe a ref makes a call and he says that was a good hit, and all of a sudden he's banned for a year because he got mad at the ref. Yeah, it's like
there is literally nothing there that says what any of this is, and it shows up across the board. So the reason I brought up the Billy situation is, anybody here going to argue that this is worse than that Billy situation?
No, Billy. I mean, the only difference was that didn't happen at a major event, right? That was like at a private pool hall. That's the only difference. But I mean, if that matters,
this happened behind closed doors.
Yeah, but Billy was over.
That was more public than this. Yeah. Mike, what'd you say?
It's apples and oranges, though. Like Demetrius said. I mean, that thing was in a bar in the middle of nowhere when a camera should have never been on, between two guys. That what happened with Darren was at a professional event. To me, that's completely different.
Behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it wasn't like he did it on the TV table.
I get that it's apples and oranges. I get that it's not. But this is my exact point. It's something that is clearly more severe than what Darren did. Clearly more severe. It doesn't matter the context, right? It's worse. And there's video that shows that it's worse.
No, the consistency isn't there. Your point was made with Earl Strickland, but I just want to make a comment. So if Darren Appleton happens to watch this, I hope that Darren, like I said, maybe I was a little hard on him in the beginning, but like, obviously I think what Darren did was like a warning, not even a misdemeanor. What Darren did was like driving 60 to 55. But or maybe 65, whatever. But the point is that the WPA's reaction is out of line. If I were Darren, so I'll say, Darren, I'm completely. I appreciate you bringing this to our attention, because
you don't have no power.
But that's why I'm glad he brings it public, because as a public we have power. And my only advice to Darren is, keep that pool union going so that you can represent. And then if I were you, I would just start doing tons of drugs before every match from now on. And next time they drug test me, I'd want a pistol purple. It would just like set off every trigger. I'm just going to give them what they're looking for. Apparently they got to hit, horse tranquilizer. I'm talking the whole thing.
This conversation took a turn, man.
If there's ever been a question as to what Demetrius brings to the podcast, we found out what he brings to the podcast right there. All right. So I guess my point is like, and this is, I've had this conversation with Darren a couple times. Like, I don't agree in a players union. I think it's completely, everything that Matchroom is doing is an improvement over the year prior. And the the justification that I've gotten in favor of the players union is that the players' wishes are not being taken into account when these events are happening. But if you look back, like in 2017, when Matchroom really started taking over a lot of stuff, they were getting torched every single event. I bet their like public approval rating was like in the 20s. And ever since then, the only thing that they have done is make their events bigger, better. The only thing that I think that you could really say that's bad about Matchroom at this point, about everything that they do, is the races are too short, and the one on the spot, and winter break.
Both of those are being offset by 4-inch. Both of those are offset by 4-inch pockets, and it creates tremendous drama. So what's your opinion? What's your opinion to this comment? I'm sorry, about the elephant in the room, which is this targeting Darren because he's trying to build his players union? But I'm sorry, go ahead and finish your point.
Well, we can talk about that in a second. But like to finish out my point, it's like if there is. Matchroom is unapologetically not going to go away from that. They're saying, we hear you. We understand your concerns about this. This is a deal breaker. We are not going. And the fact that they're straight up going to tell you exactly how they feel in the situation and why they feel that they need to keep it that way. Not every rule is going to benefit the players and make them happy. And at the end of the day, what you want is consistency. And what they are doing is consistent. Like, I don't agree with it. I think a race of 7, to have something called the World Pool Masters and to have it be a winter break race of 7 to be, it's like, but like I said, they're unapologetically with that position. And there's something refreshing about that. Matchroom is doing seemingly everything to make the sport better. And it's not like they're like going 5 steps forward and 7 steps back and 3 forward and 2 back. And, they are straightforward almost all the time. And if they make a mistake, it's fixed the next year. So, I mean, if you're going to talk about like the players union, that you need to correct things that are happening that you don't feel are fair, I mean, you got to point to those things and what they are to me, because I just don't see where a players union right now is beneficial. And I can point to a ton of reasons why it's not beneficial. But I guess, Mike, do you have anything that you want to address on that?
Well, whether or not it's targeting, I mean, it's all hearsay. I'm not going to go and talk hypotheticals like that. I mean, it's convenient. 100%. The timing of it's real convenient, but it don't matter. I mean, look, you signed up for that. So if you're going to get drug tested, go get drug tested. If you don't got nothing to go and hide, then just go and take the drug test and move on about it. Don't go and make a big old scene about it,
Yeah, I agree. It's a little bit, I don't want to say suspicious, but it kind of makes you raise an eyebrow and be like, yeah, that's convenient. But yeah, we don't have any data, we don't have any facts, and so we just have to sit there and say, yeah.
At the end of the day, it's just an inconvenience at best. Like, Darren's going to pass them all. He's not out doing recreational drugs on the weekend, having fun in Vegas, right? Darren is a professional, and while he has outbursts from time to time, which we're talking about, obviously, it's not like he's going out there and doing crystal meth on the weekends. Like, making him do additional drug tests is basically just inconveniencing him. It is what it is.
But you got to go and jump through hoops, though. It's just, that's par for the course. Yeah, it's annoying, but
yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, I think I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I think that a lot of those things are silly. You can create narratives about a lot of things. I don't think that this is necessarily targeting him. I just think that it is what it is. But even if it is, it's not like they're going to bust him with anything. Is my point. So what's at and
yeah,
honestly. This is the thing that's dumbest about all of it. If he would have failed his first drug test in Vegas, he obviously can still play. There's no suspension. Billy's playing and everything. That happened almost a year ago. He's still playing. There's no punishment. That's the biggest thing I have a problem with. Billy still doesn't know what his punishment is. He's still playing in events. Why is the WPA so this is, now we're getting to the broader context of this, because this is where it drives me absolutely nuts, and why anybody who wants to like defend the WPA, I will fight you to the death on them, because we are at now, what was it? The August of last year was the Diamond Las Vegas, or the World 10 Ball, when he got random drug tested. Am I right on that? Yes. September. Okay. So was it September? Okay. It was early September, late August, whatever it was. It was early. So it has now been, 9 months about, and we still don't know Billy's punishment. They turned Darren's around in 4 goddamn days with a punishment, 3 things he had to do to make himself better in the world, and a clear and concise future
but I
conduct
thought
that he has to follow.
Billy's thing was different from what I understand because it's got to go through the Anti-Doping
Why?
Association. I
Why?
think that
Why?
because that's who the WPA sent the drug test to, as far as I understand.
Sure. But why do they? What? This is why this is what drives me crazy. The WPA has very clear guidelines because they work off of the other ones, right? So they have
Right.
very clear guidelines of what happens if you fail a drug test.
Are we losing Nate?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Oh,
There he is.
coming back.
We lost you,
There
Nate.
we go. Excuse me 1 second. 1 second.
Right. So Nate's connection is going out, and Demetrius is
Am I
jumping
back?
ship. Perfect. Yeah. This show is just taking a dive, boys.
It's the WPA. It's trying to stop us.
It is. They're messing with your internet now. Maybe you need a refresh, my man. Yeah. So anyway, moving on. I don't know what happened. Everyone's bailing. They left me here. So hey, God's green. I'm doing what I can do, my man. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's annoying what Darren's having to go through, but if you sign up to go and play a sport, then the hoops you kind of have to go and jump through. The circumstances and the situation could have been a lot better. And I think everyone's entitled to be upset, but going and snapping at someone, probably not your best day. But you live and you learn and you move on, and yeah, we'll see. Are you guys back? You guys just left me
Yeah,
out.
I'm back. Hey, Tom Wolchewski at the chat, my man. He's anyway. And then I'm the only one that matters anyway with a face that seems a little sarcastic, Ed. This is your one warning. Okay, never mind. I'm just kidding. Thank you. Should we move on? Or is it the only other thing that if we want, I'm good moving on, but if anything, is there anything that we can do to push back on the WPA?
No, because the players have absolutely no power. I mean,
Okay.
what is he going to do? All he can do is just take the punishment and then just move on. I mean, I'm assuming there's some kind of appeal though, but probably given, telling someone to F off, that appeal may not go in your favor. I'm just guessing, So, but I mean, I guess this is the equivalent of getting suspended for one event, right? Because you never know if he would have made the Masters, and if you're going to suspend him for the UK Open, okay, fine, move on, take it on the chin, and just plug away. That's all you can do. I think making it more of a big deal than what it is just giving them the satisfaction of knowing that they got one over on you.
Yeah.
And I would never, and as much as they're already trying to have a pissing contest as it is, I know I'm not going to give them that satisfaction.
Do you think Matchroom will ever get big enough that they can just ignore the WPA and just do their own thing completely and just call the shots?
I don't think they want that responsibility. I think they want to just be the sports promoter that they are. I don't think they want to be the governing body. As far as questions that I've asked and people I've talked to, which is fair. I don't think you want to hold both, wear both hats. Now, do I think that they got a lot of pull and a lot of power in that, in that category? 1,000,000%. We can't hear you, Nate. You might want to come out and come back in. But there's no, I mean, besides Predator, there's nobody else playing in that yard, so you just kind of have to deal with it if you're going to be a player, or if not, go do something else.
Yeah, I know. I understand.
Can you hear me now?
Go play. Now I can hear you. Go play Chinese A-ball, or go play ultimate pool, or go do something else.
Bonus ball.
Well, this, yeah, and I don't even remember what I was actually getting at to begin with, so I don't remember what my point was. But the point is like the WPA has, there is, and this is the thing that like Pinozzo like pushes back on all the time, and he's like, well, we need the WPA because the WPA is absolutely needed to keep promoters in check, and I mean, I guess he's right in the sense that like we need to have somebody do this job, but like the WPA doesn't actually do anything worth having. Like, and this is the big pushback I have on the BCA too. Like, if you're going to be the governing body of pool, at least in the U.S., then be the governing body of pool in the U.S. And they just seem to have no interest in it, and the WPA doesn't either. I just don't understand how you can.
Mike said it before. A lot of it's funding, though. I think fundamentally, they mean well, but they're just maybe underfunded. And I remember, I spoke to the hell was that guy's name? Shane Tyree, who's, according to Darren, was going to be the one taking over Ian Anderson's spot at the president of WPA. And in so many words, he didn't want no part of that responsibility. And it seems to be you got to deal with a lot of BS, and there's not much, worth it on the other side, which I get, But like that guy who was piss testing Darren, you signed up for that job, man. So you're gonna have to deal with somebody's BS from time to time. That's just par for the course if you're doing that.
Well, this leads because I actually remember what I was going on and saying there. You just can't tell me like the WPA knows exactly what happens if you fail a drug test. It's laid out very clearly in all of your rules. Why do you have to wait for this third-party body to make your decision for you? All you're trying to do is pass the buck on to them and make them make your decisions for you. You know exactly what happens if you fail a drug test. Why are you waiting for somebody else to make your decisions for you? The WPA should have gave him a sanction the exact moment that it happened based off of what the rules say. If you don't, this is the part that I have a problem with the WPA. If you're going to put the rules in place, enforce them. Or don't enforce them, but don't act like you're waiting for this big decision to be made when you're just trying to pass the buck to somebody else to do your job for you. It just drives me crazy. And that's why we still don't have a decision on Billy Thorpe. And we have a decision after 3 days for Darren Appleton, which was not nearly as bad. It drives me freaking crazy to think that you can wait 9 months and basically pass the buck every second of it, trying to not have to make a decision. And you can make one in 3 days to do against Darren. It just makes zero sense.
So what would you rather them go and wait 9 months and then it'd be a pass for them? Because that don't make no sense either. I mean,
well, what I'm saying is the rules are in place for Billy. They know exactly what he's going to be getting. There is no question about what he's going to be getting. They have no damn clue what Darren should have gotten. They made that up out of thin air. They have zero idea what the hell they were going to give him for a punishment. They made it up on the spot, and it shows from the email that they sent him with what he was actually punished.
Yeah, but you signed up giving that entity the power to go and make decisions like that in your life.
That doesn't mean we can't check them. It doesn't mean that we can't check them, at least as like the media in this game. It doesn't mean that we can't check them, because right now,
bring them on. I'd love to go and talk to them. Let's start sending some emails and knocking on some doors.
I'm happy to.
I mean, you know me, I don't shy away from shit like that. So let's do
it. We should get Darren on that episode too.
Right?
Stir the pot a little bit.
Yeah. I just
all-time high ratings.
Yeah.
They just they make a punishment up out of thin air, and it's enforced in 3 days. But there's an actual. I think the point's been made. I think this one's getting close to beat to death, because then here's the problem is if we don't draw the line here, we talked about Darren, we talked about our opinions. If we don't draw the line, pretty soon it's like it gets into like political drama of the back scenes with stuff, and I don't really know anything about it. And yeah, Earl can moderate the discussion.
Oh, that's funny.
All right, winner in the comments right there.
10 points for Patrick Neal. All right, I guess we can move on. It just the idea that the WPA is the governing body of this industry, that it clearly wants to be zero. It clearly does not want to be a part of. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think that you can describe it any other way. They don't want to be a part of the sport. They don't want to do anything that's hard. And what's the point of an organized body that's supposed to be ruling over the pool world if you have zero ability or desire to do that? And then when you do it completely arbitrarily and inconsistent with anything that you've done in the past. It just drives me nuts. So, all right, let's move on then. Let's talk about the World Pool Masters. Joshua Filler continues his tear. And if you were arguing on the side of Victor Zielinski, you are just a dummy. You are just a big dummy.
Yeah, I was gonna queue it up. I was gonna queue up the part from last week's podcast where we picked our winner and be like, I can't remember who I picked. Oh, wait a second. And then I was gonna click and play the part where, yeah.
Well, Victor wasn't invited, which
I
to
understand.
me is, but neither here nor there. All right, Joshua Filler wins over Loho Sum, and I mean, I'm just gonna say it. I mean, that was probably the worst potential performance out of a player who made it to the finals of any tournament I've ever seen in my life. You want to talk about like, and he won the matches. Like, I'm not, as far as the way that he played awful. As far as his ability to grind, my God, is that kid clearly fearless and has the short term memory. It's kind of neat to see because, like, I mean, he probably shouldn't have won any match that he played. Dennis Graba had to literally play the worst pool I've ever seen him play. Shane couldn't get out of his own way. Who did he beat from there? Was it Abdullah? Abdullah, like, oh my God. I haven't seen that guy. I mean, he basically jumped on the scene like a year ago, but like, wow. It's just crazy. And then Mieszko Fortunski. Yeah, I mean, he played good against Mieszko. He actually, I thought that was his best match that he played the entire tournament. And then actually put up a pretty good fight against Josh. He probably gave Josh the closest match that he had in that entire tournament. I mean, that's pretty crazy to think about. Congrats to Loho Sum. I still don't understand.
Well, I don't know, man. Dennis almost got the one on him.
That's true. He almost.
Okay.
He almost,
so here's
hit
what
the
I think
object
about.
ball.
Here's what I think in general is that this 4-inch pockets and short sets, it was refreshing to see balls not go in, because when you watch these players play in the World Championship, and they're, everyone knows that they wanted to get the pockets tighter, but when they're on 4.5-inch with new cloth, see, the new cloth thing, it makes those pockets with 4.5 inches play like over 5 inches. They're buckets. And when you put them on the 4-inch pockets, now I actually thought it was interesting. I coming down the rails, the balls could still slide in a little bit if they were at pocket speed. But when there's firing balls in from out in the middle of the table, or shooting balls, there's a spot where the balls. So when a ball's real close to the rail, like not frozen or like not, I'm not talking like too small ball position. I'm talking like when a ball's like a ball width off the rail, you can shoot it down the rail, it can wobble and go in. But when you get that ball like a dime on the rail, like maybe you're half a diamond to a diamond off the rail in front of that third diamond on the side rail, you're shooting it down the rail, but it's not, it gets far enough off the rail to where now if it catches any rail point going in, it'll rattle. And those were really shrinking up. So my point is that it was refreshing, because when I watch these players play on big pockets, it can get a little boring. They just run out. It feels like it's all a breaking contest, or who gets the rolls, who gets the opportunities. But for the first time, I got to see these players playing on equipment that looks more like what I play on, in the sense of not everything just goes in, and it showed a lot of humanity. And so you put together the short sets, the pressure of those short sets, the pressure of the tighter pockets, and we got to see what these guys play like when they're feeling heat on tough equipment. And not to say we've never seen it before, but I just felt that it was a much more realistic. So I don't necessarily feel like everyone played really, really bad. I just feel like that's how good players play when you're on tough equipment and under pressure.
Mike, any thoughts?
The break was a little ridiculous. I think there was less than a handful or so dry breaks. I'm not in love with that personally. I want to see more pool being played, especially when you got these guys who are controlling the one, coming around 3 rails like a lot of these guys were doing. I love the 4-inch pockets though. I think that's the only way that these top guys should be playing, and I love the race to 7 because it is pressure packed. And winter break, it's like all you need is just one chance, and it really puts a value on winning that lag, because like Josh showed against Dennis, you can go and hit him and hit him and hit him and hit him over again, where he's never going to get a chance to go and play pool. So, but I think, I'm not saying go back to a 3-point rule, but maybe if the 9 was on the spot, or if they're breaking in the box or something, that would go and change the way that the balls are coming out. But that wing ball was just, I mean, it was every time. So, but I mean, aside from that, I thought it was great. I agree with you, Nate. I thought Loho Sum, I don't know how he got to that final. I think he just scraped his way and barely crossed the finish line on a lot of matches. And I also have to agree with you that I thought he gave Josh hell, at least from what I saw from 4-4 on, because I didn't get to see the first 8 games of that event. And whenever it was 4-4, to be honest with you, I was kind of disinterested, because it's Josh against someone who I expect him to go and run over, and in that middle part of the match, it was competitive. But then once Josh had a window, he's a closer, and he did that. He closed them out. He does what he does what he always does, which is finish guys off. And he made that table look very basic and remedial and elementary. As crazy as that sounds, he made that look like an American playing on a valley, a top American rather.
Well,
So
yeah,
hats
sorry.
off to him. No, go
Yeah,
ahead.
and I want to talk about both of them. So as far as him getting to the finals with suboptimal play, like there's no question that his technical performance, like the physical technical performance, wasn't consistently at the 950 TPA type thing. What I do think was interesting though is mentally he was at a really 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 good spot because there's many times in a match where it comes down to like a gut check, like can you do what you need to do in this moment to get this ball in. And there was a lot of, I remember Jeremy Jones talking about like there was a number of shots where I think at one point he called it set ball, where he's like, man, if he makes this is like a set winning shot. But he knows it, and it's this long cross table tough shot where totally exposed, right? There's no control. It's just pure stroke. Can you do what needs to be done at the moment? And whenever those situations came up, he was prepared to take advantage. So what I would say is, we've seen this many times, Nate, like playing bar table 8-ball, where there's like a lower skilled player who maybe is stumbling through the racks and it's not technically clean and they don't play as good as the player they're up against, but they are finding ways to put together what they know how to do. And they're coming with the shots they need to come with, where you can just tell they're in the present, they're in the here and now, they're totally ready to take advantage. And I think he did that all the way to the finals. However, then you get to the finals, and I've seen this again and again and again. I saw it with Clenty Kochi in the finals of the 2017 US Open. We saw it with Lucius Yap last year's US Open. We see these players that make these great runs where they're just like no expectations, really pure state of mind, taking advantage of opportunities. But there's something about the pressure of the finals to where at some point, having the experience and the confidence really takes you the rest of the way.
I don't know. I push back on that analogy. Aloysius and Eklund are world quality players. I mean, from what I saw from Loho Sum, like, and I'm not talking about his shot selection was not even like professional level in some cases. I mean, he made the mistakes that he made were like, I don't know what his Fargo rate is. Maybe I should probably look this up. I would be, I mean, of course, Fargo rate, whatever, but I'd be surprised if he was over 750 to 760. Do you know, Mike?
What?
What is potentially what his Fargo rate is?
Who? Yeah, Fargo rate?
No, Loho Sum.
Oh, I don't think he's 800. I think he's like a 770, 780, somewhere around there. I don't know. It could be low.
I mean, if he is that high, like I mean, I'll insert my foot in my mouth. But like the shots that he played, I mean, I just don't see how he is.
Yeah, but a lot of that can be pressure though too, man. And he's never been on that stage before either. So I mean, I don't think it's completely fair to go and air him out, so to speak. I mean,
I'm only talking about it like a shot selection. You want to talk about mental fortitude? The dude is fearless. I mean, you're talking about like a world quality mental play. Some of the especially the match against Abdullah and the match against Dennis and Shane too. Like those three. Yeah, 753 Fargo. That doesn't surprise me. Like, obviously, he's a great player, like a really good player. But I mean, I guess if he was 749, okay. So if you want to talk about his mental Fargo rate, like he might be a 900 mental Fargo.
Well, but that's because of circumstances where he's an underdog. He doesn't have any expectation. He goes in there figuring he's lucky to win a set. So every set's like an opportunity. It's just totally different. And I think that part of it is, part of it, you're right. He doesn't play Filler's level. There's no question. But at the same time, that's what's great about a tournament like this. You've got short sets, you've got a bunch of pressure, and then you've got tight enough pockets to where if you're playing a guy like Abdullah who flinches and you're ready to take advantage, I mean, that's what makes this format so great is and somebody like Abdullah can beat a better player out or something. And then all of a sudden you can get to the finals without, you know what I mean? He didn't play Dennis. He didn't play, Albin, did he? I mean, he just kind of, who did he play? Who did he play on the road to the finals?
Graves,
He had to play
Shane.
Dennis, Shane, Abdullah, Mieszko, and then Josh.
Okay, so Shane's a big win. Everybody else, I mean, he's
Shane's a huge
obviously
win. He beat him bad too. I think he beat him like 7-2. I think he beat Shane.
yeah. So so it's like I'm happy
no,
for him.
did Shane get maybe Shane? Did Shane get it back Hill? I think
yeah,
he was
maybe.
up big on.
Yeah. Shea was Hill.
Yeah,
Then
he was up big,
billiarded
and
that
then he
ball
got
in.
back. Yeah.
He billiarded into the ball instead of getting Shape on it. Yeah. And then he missed that one rail kick or that little twist safety. So anyway, I think we're both right. Like in the sense of like he probably plays, he was probably delivering. He was delivering his game as well. I mean, his game isn't as strong as the top players. You're right. The level of technical play wasn't as strong, but he was delivering his best game when it mattered under the heat again and again and again. And that's pretty impressive. So
yeah. So I mean, it probably sounds like I'm dogging on the kid, and I don't know. Maybe I kind of am. But like what I'm saying is like his mental ability is like his mental fortitude and his mental.
Yeah, but Demetrius said it best. I mean, like maybe the kid was just swinging. I mean,
free
hell,
rolling.
it
could be.
If you're free rolling, why not go and try to go for the knockout blow every time?
Sure.
Every game he won is. And that goes to show, I talk a lot about this in my longer version pods or, on my coaches' corners. I've got clip, but it's like, that's where having no expectations is really, really powerful. Because when people are in a spot where they feel like an underdog, where like, hey, I'm not supposed to win this. I'm just lucky to be invited. Let's see how it goes. It creates such a good state of mind where people feel like, I talk about it this way. The losses mean nothing. Misses mean nothing, but wins mean everything. So when players are in that state of mind where they're like, I don't expect every game I win is just like a awesome celebration. And if I could even win one match, that's great. And now I've won one match. I've already exceeded my expectations. Let's just keep going. So the question is then how do you maintain that no expectation mindset when you're a tournament favorite like Albert or Shane? It's really hard to do it. But anyway, that's a totally different conversation. But I think that it's interesting.
If you would have made a list of guys you would have picked to go and make it or to win or even just to make it in the finals, Loho Sun would have been at the bottom of that list.
Yeah.
And I mean at the very bottom of that list. But
number
he's got
24.
the ability.
Probably
100% he would have been number 24, at least on my list. And I know a lot of other people he would have been number 24. Yeah, I mean, but I mean he got there when he needed to. He delivered whenever he had to and crossed the finish line. And he did give Josh Hill. You got to give him a lot of credit for that because he had a chance to go and
like I said, I sound like I'm probably dogging on him. I sound like I'm dogging him, but like really, what I'm saying is like the dude's mental fortitude towards the game. Like you can say he's freewheeling, he's taking a free swing, but like after if you watch the Abdullah match that he played in, both of them missed. There was some games where both of them would miss. There was a game where I think they both missed a 6-ball like 3 times each. And I don't care how much you're free rolling. Like if you're missing that often, your confidence goes straight to the tank. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I don't know too many players who miss 4 balls and they feel more confident on the 5th.
You know what?
What I'm saying about, well, let me finish out quick because like I've been cut off like 3 times on this. Like the idea that like he's able to miss 5, 6, 7 times in 2-3 games and still have the mental fortitude to close out these matches, match after match after match after match. Like there's something to be said about that. That's really, really impressive. And like if you watch all of his matches until basically Mieszko, he did not play run out pool. He played grind it out, wear your opponents down, and just win. And there's something to be said about that. I mean,
I was agreeing with that because I tell you, I'll never forget. I played a money match one time where I played, I'll say it was Jimmy Wetch. So Jimmy Wetch is back in the 90s. He was our top pool player in Minnesota. He was ranked 5th in the world at one time. And this was probably early 2000s. He was still playing competitively. He played real well. And then we were just playing some like 20 a rack 9-ball one day. And Jimmy's a better, at the time, he was definitely a better player than me. And the one thing that I realized, we were playing on a really, really, really tight triple shim diamond with worn cloth. It was super brutal. And the level of play was not what you would expect watching one of the best players in the world. And at the time I was playing pretty good pool, but it was really gritty. It was like nobody was stringing racks. It was like every rack was like, there was not a lot. I mean, there wasn't even a lot of table runs from the 1-ball. Like somebody would run 4 balls and it would turn into a safety battle, or somebody would miss and it would turn into a battle for the shot, and there was multiple misses and multiple turnovers. And I remember getting really frustrated because I was like, man, I'm playing so bad. And I was feeling really discouraged about how I was playing. And Jimmy, who's better than me at the time for sure, like didn't seem like he cared how bad he was playing. He just one shot at a time did what was in front of him. And at the end of the day, I really felt like he didn't beat me because he outplayed me. He beat me because he was less perturbed by the low level of play that I was. He wasn't, because here's the thing is, in my mind, I'm like, how do I stack up against a pro and how good do I play? Whereas he's just looking at it like, I've got a job to do. So he's not assigning all this importance to the level of play. He's just trying to perform and do what's in front of him. And so I feel like with Loh Hossam, it's like he's not out there thinking like, I'm supposed to be this top professional and never miss a ball. He's just like, what are my chances? What do I do now? And I think that there's a lesson there, which is like, you can't get beating yourself up or frustrated by a low level of play. Sometimes you just got to grind it out and win when you're playing bad. Somebody once told me anybody can win when they're in stroke, but only a champion wins when they're struggling,
I like it. I mean, I'm not sure where that comment. I said he played great against Josh.
And I was just I was agreeing with your comment about the mental fortitude.
No,
and how,
I'm talking about one of the comments in the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I said he played great against Josh, and he put up a great fight. I'm not really sure what you're listening to as far as that goes, but anyways, regardless, I mean, I guess, I think if you'd have ran this tournament a bunch of times, it's to get the 3/4, or I guess at least two. Mieszko had a great tournament. I guess that needs to be said. To be honest, Dennis Arcoyo had a great tournament until he ran up into Josh.
And let's give Josh a shout. I wanted to say my favorite shot of the tournament. So Josh Filler broke the balls great and got kissed to the side and was down like 2-0 right away. And then, he caught up and then it was nip and tuck for a while. In my opinion, one of the coolest shots I saw of the tournament was like 7-6 Josh. So we know if he dogs the ball here at 7-7, the other guy's breaking, anybody can win. And Josh makes that rail first combo, that back cut rail first combo table length on the 1-6 or the 3-6. I think it was the 3 ball. He shot the 3 into the rail into the 6 ball. And I mean, did you guys know what shot I'm talking about? You should pull it up. Here, I'll link it, Nate. Anyway, we don't need to do it anyway.
You talk about the combination. Say that again. I wasn't.
Yeah. So Filler was up 7-6, and he had a shot. He took on a shot on the 3-6 combination, like length of the table.
Oh yeah, the 6. Yeah, and the 6 was like it was on a good spot on the long rail. It was like
he played it rail first. All I know is that when I saw him line that up, when I saw him line that up, I was thinking like this to me. Like I know that I like the way he played it rail first, and I know that the shot's playable that way. But to shoot a back cut length of the table rail first combo, I was just on a 4-inch hole. I was thinking like, man, I thought like it didn't even occur to me to go offense. I was thinking where he's going to duck. And I saw him line up that back cut. And I'm like, in those circumstances, that was one of the best shots I've seen this year. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that shot took me completely by surprise. Like he was 100% offense on it too, because he was playing that ball to be able to have a shot on. I thought he was honestly playing short off it so we can go thin off the one ball and just try to get it to the top, kind of frozen to the top rail. I thought that was like the safety he was playing. And at that point, I'm like, well, why are you trying to go off that ball? It doesn't really make sense to me. I'm in your boat. Like, I'm just looking at that shot. I'm like, there's no offense here. There's no way you're playing the shot at this point in the match. Like, this is like the shot that got him eliminated from the Whirlpool Masters. Like, it's like one of those shots that he's up big. Was it against Albin? And he's up big against him, and all he's had to do is just play a safety and extend the game on. He takes on a shot that's ill-advised, and
it's one of those shots that if he missed that shot, everybody, like half the keyboard warriors of the country, would have been like, he should have ducked there. Stupid. Like he stretched for a shot and missed it. And I saw on Facebook somebody was like, "What? He stretched for this shot and missed it. He should have ducked there," and all this stuff. But it's like they don't anyway. These guys shoot so straight that who's anybody in the keyboard audience to know what their actual percentages are? Because Filler, now he may have had a spotty performance, but there's 2 different kinds of spotty performance. One spotty performance is like every shot is off and you're struggling and you're overcutting and you're undercutting and your speed's off and it's like everything's off. And then there's another spotty performance where you play damn near perfect with a couple of hiccups due to pressure. Like Josh, I would say it wasn't like everything was a little off. It was like there was a couple blunders due to pressure, but the rest of the time, his overall striking is so sick that I just watched him. I'm like, yeah, he's going to make a couple blunders now and then because of the pressure of the circumstances. But like, every time I watch Josh play, I'm just totally in awe of his striking.
Yeah, it's sick. So I guess looking at the tournament, who's your big surprise? We'll say outside of Loh Hossam, because I think we're all going to have that. And who's your big disappointment? Mike, what you got?
Fortunski was my surprise. I like seeing him like step up, because I think he's had a lot of expectations, and it's good to go and see him like start to deliver on those. As far as a disappointment, man, I don't know. That's it's tough to say because it's short race. Like I take a lot of positive things out of seeing Dennis, out of seeing the Cole brothers. Um, a lot of guys really. I don't think anybody really just outright dogged it. You know, I think those guys in the bottom half though were just living the dream because a lot of those heavy hitters were all up top, just knocking each other off round by round. Um, I would have liked to have seen Shane come back and then see what he can do in the next couple rounds because you would have loved his chances from there, but it wasn't meant to be, and Loho Sun went and sealed the deal.
Yeah, I think that the only surprise for me, I was a little disappointed. Now they're mentioning Skyler. I was disappointed to see Shane lose. But I'll tell you what, when I heard, I didn't watch the match, but when I heard that Shane lost, I was immediately like, man, come on, Shane. I was hoping for him to catch a gear. However, when I went and watched, I just watched highlights of that match. Shane actually played well physically, but he also played well mentally. Like he was present, he was doing what he needed to do. Some things didn't go his way. He lost to a guy that got to the finals, and it's a race to 7. It's like you kind of understanding, especially I think the biggest surprise for me was Shane, Shaw, Elvin to see, and of course I know it's short sets, but you still, I think, like you said, if you ran that tournament out a bunch of times, to see, that number of top players not make it deeper in the tournament, I think that I was a little surprised by that.
Yeah, I guess I can't be really upset with Jason because, like, I watched that match from start to finish, and Mieszko wins the leg, breaks and runs the first 2. I think he misses the 9 ball after that to break and run the first 3. I think he misses the 9 ball. I think Jason wins that game, maybe wins 1 more, and then Mieszko runs the set out. He runs 5 straight. I mean, how is that disappointing?
He played
same way with,
man, the entire event.
Yeah, and the same way with there's a couple Skies are disappointment. Like, if you want to say Sky was a disappointment in the World Championships, I'm all on board for that. I'm very much on board for that. For this one, Joshua Filler was on a tear. I mean,
He was not going to be denied.
He was 7-0 against Dennis Arcoyo. Who do you remember ever beating Dennis Arcoyo 7-0? I mean, Josh was on a magical run, and at the end of the day, I'm trying to come up. If I have one disappointment, and I kind of predicted this one. I mean, I got all my predictions wrong on this one, except for I expected Dennis Graba to struggle with this because with this, he's kind of has those loose mechanics. But honestly, I was a little disappointed in his performance, and I don't want to say that Dennis he went on kind of a hot streak there for about three or 4 months right before COVID, and then even a couple months after COVID, where things started to open up, and where he was honestly knocking on the door of being in that not elite tier, but that second tier right underneath them. And we've now kind of seen Dennis fall off a little bit back to where he was before. Kind of he made that approach, and to be honest, it's a little disappointing because I like Dennis, and I like to see him up towards the top. I like his attitude. I like how he just allows everything to be worn on his sleeve.
I think that's fair.
You see his emotions. And honestly, it's a little disappointing that that we're not seeing Dennis kind of take that next step and actually cement himself into that next tier.
Yeah, my bank account was disappointed he didn't beat Loho Sun on that.
Yeah. I want to say hey to Billy Lassie from Wisconsin. Anyway, hey Billy. Okay, so and then I think that the pressure was it changes. It's such a sick game, man. Race to 7. It puts at winter break. Yeah, the pockets are tight, so that of course, there are some 4-back runs, but whatever. But not all that many. I mean, there was still a lot of back and forth. There was more. We remember those sets and the blowouts and stuff where what Mieszko did or what Filler did to Dennis. But there's many more sets where there's balls missed on both sides and there's a lot of back and forth. So I think it's a good balance. I like the format. I just think that the pressure is so intense that I just will say this. I've been under pressure that most people don't understand. And I don't even understand the level of pressure they're under. I've been under pressure to the point where I've said it before, where the table doesn't even look like a rectangle anymore. It looks like some trapezoid out of your nightmares. I've been to the spot where you feel like your cue is like curved like a bow, and the pockets look like they're moving, where the object ball you look at in 1 minute, all you can picture is overcutting it. So you wiggle your aim over, and now you're undercutting it. And you're on a shot clock, which did come into play a few times. And on 4-inch holes that are staring at you with somebody that you don't. I mean, and you go out there, you prepare for this event, then you go out there and you feel like you've got one turn at the table. Like, you're not going out there with a double elimination format with some back and forth people that are giving you extra chances. Like, you're going out there. It's almost like the only thing I can compare it to would be like the Olympics, where you're going out there, single limb, one shot, M&M, palms are sweaty. I just want to take a moment and make sure everybody's on the same page that, like, things are going to go a little sideways, and we can't be too judgmental about some of the stuff that happens.
Yep.
Nope, I'm with it. I mean, awesome. Honestly, congratulations to Loho Sum. I think it's awesome. Hopefully, this is a little bit of a spark, and maybe we see a little bit more out of him. Joshua Filler continues his tear. I still don't think he's the best in the world. I'd push back on you, Mike. I still think that Albin's the best in the world at this point. At least playing 9 ball. If you want to talk about overall game, I agree with you. I think Josh, honorable mention to Fedor, because we don't actually get to see them match up. But I think as far as overall game, Josh he's really good.
It's an intense debate. There was a SJM who's Stu from AZ Billiards. Anyway, he had a post. I asked him about that because his opinion is that Filler is the strongest 9-ball player in the world right now, and he's dominated more than anybody for the last like 7 years. So I actually responded to him, and I asked him about Filler. I asked him about Albin. I'm like, hey, a lot of people feel that Albin, might have that, and he said that. Here, I'm just gonna read you. He says, yes, Albin's resume is superb, especially in the last 2 years, and 2 World Pool Championship golds and a silver in this era is almost mind-blowing. That said, he hasn't won the U.S. Open or the China Open, the other 2 majors in this assessment, in my assessment. Throw in the 2021 International 9-ball, we're definitely talking about a Hall of Famer, but Filler's resume is much stronger. Now, he's actually wrong. Albin did win the 2015 China Open. So anyway, the bottom line is Filler's won all of these events. He's won the U.S. Open, the World Championship, the China Open, the World Pool Master. I mean, he's completed the circuit. World Cup of Pool. So he's completed the circuit. Anyway, I wouldn't go so far as to say Filler's dominant over Albin, but I don't think it's fair to say Albin's got the edge over Filler. I think it's, as far as I'm concerned, they're the 2 hottest 9-ball tournament players.
Yeah. You're splitting hairs. I mean, at the end of the day, like if you wanted to make a serious argument for Joshua Filler, am I strong enough in my beliefs of Albin right now to like deter you from your position? No. Like, I honestly, like, if you want to say Josh and you want to argue with me, I'll be like, okay, I'm okay with that. Like, I believe it's Albin, but I believe it's Albin by like such a small margin at this point that.
Well, then I used to wonder about guys like with the difference in styles. I used to sit around and wonder, like, would one guy maybe be more consistently at the top? Like maybe Albin's style, he's more consistently getting deep, whereas Josh's style, you might not hear from him for 8 months, then he might catch a gear and win 4 majors in a row. And does the difference in play, the difference in style of play, result in different distributions of wins and losses, where and maybe as a personal preference between if you like the guy that has the highest gear versus the guy that's the more steady guy. But in the end, yeah, it's all 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. They're both champions.
For sure.
You think, Mike?
No, I mean, I agree with you. You're splitting hairs. You can't argue Albin's resume over the last, 18 months. You can't argue how dominating Filler can be at times too. And he seems like he's just picking back up, winning the Euro Tour and then backing it up with this one. But we'll see. I mean, they're both going to be on the Mosconi Cup. They're both just monsters. But if they were gambling, give me Filler all day long. But
I think,
anything.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think that the format matters, because if they're playing triangle rack with tight pockets, of course, that's what they just did maybe. But in general, what I would say is that the more post rack play there is, The less the break is a factor, the less balls are going in on the break, the tighter the pockets, the more post rack play. Now Filler moves great, but I think that he's a little bit. It's almost like if you had to pick Shane versus Dennis in a long set. If it's a game where it's like a lot of grind, tight pocket, worn cloth, triangle rack, playing 10-ball, maybe I think that Dennis has more of a chance. But if they're playing like new tournament cloth, magic rack 10-ball, Shane's going to blow him away. I think Filler has got such a big gear. If they're playing any kind of format where there's a 40-50% break and run stat, I think Filler's gear is the guy I'd want to bet on in a gambling match. But if they played a format where it was like a little bit grindier, Albin just moves and manages so well that, that might change it a little bit. Although, to Mike's point, it's hard to ever want to bet against Filler in a gambling match.
I mean, yeah, I think I tend to agree with the gambling aspect of this, but like, I don't know that I even agree with your point there. Josh jumps the balls so good that I don't.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
Albin showed, or actually Josh showed, that he can be just a little loose with his decision making. That Albin's just not, because
But over a race to 100, you're going to get away with those a little bit more too. You won't necessarily in a race to 7, but you will in a race. In a race to 100, you can get loose. It's not going to affect you as much. I mean, we saw.
Yeah. Sorry.
We saw what happened when he made the mistake in the Whirlpool Championships against Albin, right? I mean, he lost the match because of that. In a race to 100, he's going to be able to fade stuff like that.
I think that when I've watched Shane
handles money pressure better.
Yeah, and that's true. I think when you look at Shane, though, when you look at Shane in the past, the gambling matches where he really dominated were set up to where he could catch a gear and he could hit the Shane gear and start raining 3s and 4s and just break and run and catch these massive gears. Shane wanted to hit a high gear. It was like it's like the difference in a track between a straight race or like the Indy 500 or something with a big track that only loops a little bit versus like an obstacle course. And I think that Shane is just he's like a thoroughbred. He wants an open track where he can hit a high gear. And if he gets into a game like one pocket or something where we got to start and stop, that's going to favor guys like Dennis or Alex. I think that Albin does really good at the short set, where you like every game feels like hill. Maybe there's more post break play, but I think if you get an open track, I think Filler is just a faster runner in the long run.
I think Patrick Neal kind of brings up an interesting concept. Filler, Fedor, Albin, Orkoyo, Shaw, and Shane in a round robin, $100,000 entry fee, winner take all. Isn't that exactly basically the Premier League pool? I mean, the Premier League pool's dragged out more.
He's saying $100,000 a man.
I mean, the money part of it adds, but it depends on how you format it. Because if you format it similar to the Premier League pool, which is basically you have 7 players round robin, and they eliminate. I mean,
they're putting up $100,000 a man. They ain't playing no race to 5 9-ball.
Yeah,
I guarantee that.
They're not playing each other.
Yeah.
Well, this is the point. Is it kind of depends on how you format these? Because if you format it similar to like the Premier League pool, well, Albin's already won that twice. He's the only winner of it, actually, right? So it's interesting. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of an interesting concept, and it kind of depends on how you format it, I guess, as to who the winner would be. But
do you think that the short sets? I mean, Albin is such a good mover, and he's so good at moving. He's so good at handling pressure. Do you think that the short sets favor him? Like, it's almost like, does it change it to where like the sprinter has an edge versus like the marathon? Like, I feel like guys like Filler do really, really well in long sets where they can catch higher. There's more straightway and whatever. Do you where maybe like, for example, the rhythm and the confidence that Josh has in striking, he's not going to tire himself out in a race to 100. Like if you had to, is it just a gambling edge that Filler has, or do you think that there's something about a format where the shorter the sets get, the better Albin does, and then the longer the sets get, maybe guys like Shaw and Filler that just have a little bit more loose and firepower, accuracy, big gears, and they're not as burning up as much energy managing every decision. I kind of feel that way. What do you think?
Albin won the Premier League pool race to 5, and he won the world. And he got to 2 finals back-to-back years in the World Pool Championships race to 11. So he can handle both. So I don't know. I don't think it matters.
Yeah, I think we'll leave it as a push.
Maybe it doesn't know.
They're both good enough. Yeah.
So we're running long. Let's talk about the last topic quick, because I guess we're gambling. Perfect transition. Chris Reinhold made the comments or made the Facebook post basically that he's looking for some more race to 100 action. He kind of halfway respectfully called out Danny Olson, and Danny Olson respectfully declined it. Shane Wolford, however, did jump on there and say, I'll play. And I don't know. I feel like we'll probably end up seeing that. They've already gambled twice, to my knowledge, in the last calendar, or basically since Derby City. What do you guys think? Who would you like to see Chris play? And if he does play Shane, what do we think of it?
Well, and I want to just mention with Danny Olson. So when Danny Olson played Chris, they played with a template rack. Danny Olson won like 100 to, was it 62 or 72? I don't remember. But Danny Olson won by a margin, and his break and run percentage was really high. Like Danny broke and ran a lot of racks. Chris did not. And so it was almost like a contest to where Danny had a dominant break, and then Chris was so up against it he couldn't really overcome it. Now during the rematch request, that was probably at least a year ago that they played, and Chris rematches, offers him a rematch with a triangle rack, which is a pretty big difference. And then, and anyway, the reason I say that is because there were some people that were kind of hard on Danny, like, oh, what, you beat the guy once and now you're going to rematch him? They're kind of like acting like he's being a nit. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. It would be one thing if they were playing $20 sets at a local pool room. The guy wins a set and now won't play a second set. Whatever. I mean, you call him what you want to call him. But this is like, first of all, it's a year later. Second of all, it's $10,000, and third of all, it's a different format with a triangle rack. So to sit there and expect that Chris could sit there and practice his break for a year, switch to a triangle rack, and then expect that the guy owes you a $10,000 action, just for the people that were saying that about Danny, like for Danny, as far as I'm concerned, Danny might look at it like, hey, Chris is a hell of a tough match. Maybe he's a better player than me. I felt that I had a breaking edge that would allow me to be competitive with the template rack. So I took a shot. I got there. Now Chris is playing better. He's breaking better. I don't think I can beat him anymore. I don't think he owes him the action. And he certainly doesn't, as a professional, as a semi-professional.
He don't owe him the action. He won $10,000 of his money. He damn sure owes him the action. And you know what? If the triangle rack is the deal breaker, then you better reply, I'll play you with the template rack, and then see where the negotiations can go from there. But 100%, it's completely nitty to go to not go and give the guy courtesy action back when you lose 10 grand and you beat him. It wasn't like it was a 10-game spread. The guy beat him by 40 games ish, somewhere in that range. I don't remember exactly, but it was close to 40. And
I think it was 38.
For you to go and say no, come on, man.
Well, okay, so I've got two follow-ups. So the one thing I was going to say is these guys are, to be Danny Olson, to be like a, semi-professional. I mean, he's a full-time player, but like he's not making a full-time income. He's out there working hard. He don't have 10 grand to light on fire if he doesn't like a game. So I don't know that.
In that match.
But I think so. So what's the statute of limitations? What if Chris had come back 5 years later? What if he came back 10 years later? At what point do you not owe the guy action?
Like King Kong, he beat Shane McMahon. What are we talking about here? I mean, don't get me wrong, Chris played phenomenal, but I mean, you just beat the guy 12 months ago by 40 games. Don't come back with that response and expect to be like, okay, Danny, thanks anyway. Hell no. Well, I'll play with the template rack and let's go dance.
Well, maybe Danny thought he was getting in the ring and he was like total underdog. He had some backers. He was going to shot take a little bit. He got up. He stepped up. Something good happened. I don't know. I guess I disagree. I feel like
you better start rolling up some quarters to get that money together after you beat that man by 40 games. I don't care who you got to go and lie, steal, and cheat and lie. I don't care. You do whatever you got to go and do to get that money together after you beat that man by 40 games. 40.
What do you think, Nate?
He wants to go and play you again?
What do you think, Nate? Oh, I can't hear you. This is like the first time hang on, Nate, we can't hear you. Oh, I was going to say this is the first time in podcast history I've wanted to hear what you have to say.
I'm just in your fake talking. I mean, okay, so I have two things. I have two ways of looking at this. I am not of the mindset that anybody owes anybody anything when gambling. That includes running it back. So when people come in, I don't like gambling to begin with, both, well, at least for me playing, I don't enjoy gambling. I don't think that it's for me. So I really don't like the idea that if you take $50 off somebody, you are then forced to run it back. And then if you lose, you're forced to play again because you can't quit even. So now you're forced to play another one. Well, if you lose that one, now you're chasing it again, or you might want to chase it. And if you lose it, the guy feels like that he earns his, a shot at his money back again, and it just gets into this like long 16-hour battle.
There's a one-liner. It's a one-liner. There's a one-liner where a guy quits ahead. Somebody says, "You can't quit ahead." He says, "If you can't quit ahead, when can you quit?" It's like, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's so like I don't like the idea of this idea that we somehow owe people an opportunity when gambling. Like you put your money up.
Courtesy action. You give the man courtesy action back, especially after you beat him by 40 games, boys. 40 games.
Again, I don't like the idea of owing anybody anything when you're gambling money, because Vegas doesn't owe me, or I don't owe Vegas anything if I take money from it, and it sure as hell doesn't owe me anything if it takes money from me. So I don't see why we owe it to somebody else. Now, with that being said, hell yeah, he should play it. What are you worried about? Like, you won by 40 games. What are you going to win by 10 this time? Where's the, like, if Danny has a reason outside of like just not wanting to play the game because maybe he doesn't.
He said he wanted to play somebody else. He said he wants to play somebody else.
Well, and that's what I was going to get to. Hell yeah, you should be playing Chris Reinhold, because who else are you going to play? Like, if you're trying to like knock people off, you're trying to basically just go around and grab scalps.
Chip Compton.
Sure,
he's supposed to play Chip Compton next.
Well, he doesn't want to do that. I'll tell you that.
So you better watch who you call out.
No, I'm saying Danny should play Chip Compton. That'd be fun.
No, he doesn't. So at the end of the day,
at the end of the day, like, if it's 3 games, he's got every right to be nitty. At least it's more acceptable for him to be nitty if it's by 3 games. But it's by 40 games, man.
I don't know. 40. I still think you'll have a lot of people that say, well, it was close, you should run it back and give him a chance at his money back. I mean, this is the point. Like, I have a problem with gambling. It's like everybody thinks that they have a reason to continue gambling, and it's because, like, at the end of the day, you're gambling because you're like mostly a degenerate, right? Like, of course you could do responsible gambling. I'm not saying that you can't, but
like, the most clean cut boys on earth. What are you talking about?
Well, and I think that
but their backers aren't. That's kind of, they're not posting the money for it, right? Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But the point is like the people who are putting these games on just want to gamble. They want to gamble all the time. And I'm not calling degenerates in like a sense of like they're scraping or anything like that. They like the gamble. That's why they're putting the money up. They want to see the gamble, whether it's that or whether it's, putting 50 down on blackjack. It doesn't change the fact that like you want to see the gamble. And I just think it's a very dangerous thing to get into the idea that you have these unwritten laws when it comes to gambling.
Well, and I thought that, to Nate's point, I thought the whole reason of doing the whole poster and the 2-man tournament and 20,000 in the middle, I thought, in my opinion, like, I agree that there is some gambling etiquette. Like, if you go to a poker table, win a huge pot your first hand, you're not supposed to get up and leave right away. If you're playing a guy $50 sets and you win 2 sets and then the guy wants to go, play one last, and you say, hey, I only got time for one more, and they want to double or nothing, give them a chance. I mean, there's some, now that doesn't mean you should be kicked out of pool or banned from the WPA if you don't. It's just kind of an etiquette thing. But I thought the whole reason of negotiating this poster was to say, hey, instead of doing, like, I'm not going to sit here and play you $10,000 sets where we're going to go again and again and again. I'm going to play you all night and flip the coin and all this. But I'm willing to get in the ring one time for this event, one time only, 2-man tournament. I feel like that kind of week. I felt like it was like I thought it suspended the rules of typical gambling etiquette and agreed on a one time. It's like it's almost like if you tell a guy at the pool hall he wants to play a set for 500, you say, hey, listen, I've only got time for one set. I'll play a 1 race to 13 for it, win or lose. And then he's like, okay. And then you win a set for 500. Then the guy's like, double or nothing. He gets mad if you quit. It's like, hey, we agreed on one set.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we need to get this wrapped up.
Yeah, let's go to Danny and let's go to Wolford. Yeah, go ahead. Who do you like, Chris against Shane?
Chris.
Wow.
I like Chris. I like Chris if it's within the next 3 to 4 months. Shane is improving faster than any other U.S. player right now, I believe. So I'll assess this again, basically from a month-to-month, I guess.
All right, I'm going to
like right now.
Yeah.
Right now, I say Chris.
I'll take Wolford. I think that now, to be fair, I haven't played Chris and I haven't seen Chris as much recently, but you can learn a lot. Like, I will admit, I played 1 set against Shane Wolford at the Derby this year, and just 1. And you can say, well, so anybody can play a good set, but there's a difference between watching somebody play. I've seen lower rated players than Shane Wolford play sets better than that against me. I mean, I've had people not to say Hunter Lombardo's not much lower rated, but like Hunter played a set on me once. He beat me like 9-0 or 9-1 or something at Turning Stone. He played a really airtight set. I've had people that are, I've had a lot of people play higher level sets than what Shane did to me. But the way Shane did it it was like live read. It was so intense that after that one set, I'm like, yeah, Shane's stronger. Shane is stronger than almost anybody I've competed against. That's it.
Yep. And Mike had to run, and we're going to be running out of here too. But I still think that while he's coming up, and I think he's improving faster than any other U.S. player, like I said, I still think that he hasn't gotten to quite to where Chris's level is. And I like I said, 2 months from now, I might push back and say, nope, I think that Shane has passed him. It's a matter of time for me. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of
this
when.
is one where I don't really want to gamble heavy. Like, I wouldn't want to bet big on Chris. I wouldn't want to bet big on Shane. What I'm looking to do is steal. So I'm going to try to find somebody on AZ Billiards that's offering a big odd spread with some game handicap or something. And maybe if I can get 10, I don't even know if I want games on the wire, because I feel like
7
if
to
Shane
1
wins,
on your money in like 15 games.
Yeah, like I feel like if Shane wins, he's just going to win.
Yeah.
I don't, if Shane wins, he's going to win. So I just kind of feel like if somebody wants to give me 3-2, maybe I bet a little bit on Shane.
Yeah.
I need a little help. I need a little help because we know he's the underdog, right?
If they play a race 100, I'll just take 10 to 1 on my money, and maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we all know Chris is the favorite, so somebody's got to give me some odds.
Speaking of nits, hey, have you met Demetrius?
Hey, man, okay, funny story for the audience. This is real short. I was woofing I wasn't woofing. I was defending myself against the guy who was woofing. There's a guy that woofs at me from time to time, and this guy, I think he's a total go off degenerate gambler. He thinks I'm a total nit, right? So anyway,
this must be MPJ.
So I'm telling he says to me one time, we're lining up a big money game, and we're playing for a substantial amount, probably more than I've ever played for before, and we're trying to line up some big game, and he starts calling me a nit, and I said, you're right, I am a nit. I absolutely am a nit. I said I would never bet more than like $5 unless I know I've got the stone cold nuts. So what does it tell you that I'm about to play you for that much money? Like, you're the one that loses every week going off to different people. Like, if I'm getting in the ring with you, you're right, I am the nit. So what does that tell you about this matchup that we're about to participate in? Anyway, kind of a funny story.
And how much money does this person owe you?
So the other story, and you guys are gonna love. This is one of my favorite stories. So the other one was I promised I would never tell this story, but here it is. It's too funny. There was somebody that went off at a casino one time and lost all their money, and kind of got drunk and lost everything they had. And so the next day they woke up hungover and blacked out and don't know where their $6,000 is or whatever. And I heard about that. I'm like, man, that's too bad. That's too bad. So anyway, I'm sitting there at the blackjack table in between matches playing $10 a hand. And I was sitting there with Josh Burble. We're in between matches. We're playing $10, $10 blackjack. And I see this person kind of walking towards me, and I know what just happened. I know that they just went off and lost their $6,000. And I know that this person thinks I'm a total nit too. Anyway, this person walks by and they say, how you boys doing? And I looked over and I said, you wouldn't believe it, I am getting tortured. I'm probably down $40 or $50 right now. It was, to this day, it just brings me joy. Like, I know the guy stuck $6,000. I mean, it just never mind.
I hate you a little bit more just for telling that story.
All right. Take me out. Can you cut this from when you put can you cut this last 10 minutes from the podcast? I don't want. No, too late. All right.
No. Why would I do that? That's silly.
Funny stuff, man. Pool's a funny game.
Let's get out of here. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in again. I guess until next week, I guess, huh? All right.